19. 319. 319. See, these are good prime numbers. Now, I give this missive and installment to a dear friend and today marks for my dear friend a symbolic milestone that's very difficult to ignore, even if one is not superstitious or astrological, supernatural, metaphysical, or even if one is. What do those words even mean today anyway? Dear JSA 3. JSA 3. Prime numbers. $19 is probably one of the best prime numbers. There is a piece, and dear JSA 3, I was attending Orange Coast College. And how old was I? 20? I had just quit USC. I was in crisis. Adolescent crisis. Orange Coast College. At some point, I remember, look at this. Am I really so problematic? Wrinkled shirts, Dimitri. Wrinkled shirts. It's unbecoming. What was I gonna... Don't worry, I promise this is gonna get deep in a second. I'm just gonna have to stop for a second and unwrinkle. That was an interesting time. I saw, dear JSA 3, I saw a certain amount of you during those years. Remember, you were staying in Huntington Beach for a time. So anyway, at Orange Coast College, I was really into music then and now. And we're talking about 1994, 4, and Don Ellis did Hungarian 19. I forget what the piece is called. There are a lot of recordings of it because I think it's quite a famous piece. The piece on Hungarian 19. 3-3-2-2-2-1-1-2-2-2 or something like that. Does that add up? I'm not going to go tedious on you right now because there's some ground to cover. There's some ground to cover. Dear JSA3, I was aware, so we have gone to high school together. JSA3, and we went to Irvine High School. Behind the orange curtain, as it were. And boy, did we feel it. And I don't know how aware of it I was. I mean, I think in high school, what did I really even understand about notions such as political faction? Political faction actually was not, you hear stories like this from decades earlier, but the idea of political faction, especially in Congresses that were particularly bipartisan, that they worked together and so on, whenever that time was that we pine after nostalgically, I'm just thinking about our parents because we've been past conversations that we've had. Well, we talk about our parents a lot and growing up, our formative years and everything, and boomers, right? The main thing that I think of right now when I think of boomers is Marjorie Taylor Greene, because that's part of her shtick. She's like, look, we have a generational problem. Boomers, this is not the words that she uses, but basically boomers are greedy, and Generation X and beyond, we sort of get stuck with the bill. Somebody somebody takes all the benefits from a windfall, from what is essentially a series of contingent events where Hitler decides to bomb Pearl Harbor, or I mean, not Hitler. I don't know history. They decided to have kamikaze pilots bomb Pearl Harbor. And I'm sure that Hitler was at the very least not unaware, because he declared war right then and there. I'm curious about when was the declaration of war made? As the attack on Pearl Harbor was happening, or what? Because we got lucky. Somebody wanted to pick on us, or whatever the story is, and we got what? We got to have dignity. We had power. We had great power. We had resources and capacity, not incapacity. We had resources. We had capacity. We had timing. Kairos, the time. Kairos, orchi chronos, orchi chronos, kairos. The time, to have the time. For it to be the time. That's the meaning of zeitgeist. The time being right. Well, the time, it just so happens in the United States, the time is pretty much always right for something. This country doesn't sleep. I don't mean at night. I mean figuratively. No. My opinion about the Cold War is that Americans looked apathetic because the whole concept was horribly abstract. We didn't know it at the time because we were kids. We, just the same way as 10-year-olds right now who are capable of referring to and thinking about President Trump have literally no counterexample, because all they remember is when they turn on the TV, this person who's 10 years old now. Let's say they were born on March 19th, 2016. Donald Trump's just about to be sworn in. 10 years ago. That individual is 10 years old right now. And they are well aware of who President Trump is. Symbolic milestones, I think, become especially interesting now that the archive is so immediate. The archive is so immediate. I mean, I'm literally can open my mouth and be publishing essentially in real time, even though still I'm not commercially viable enough to be allowed to live stream. I guess I have to hit some number of followers. There's followers. That's a word that I definitely am defensive about, because I'm like a shitty follower and I don't want anybody to follow me. Because I spent 51 years, I guess is the number now, following thinkers that that the United States gave me, whether indirectly or directly, whether I got it from the school system or from the streets, so to speak. This country made me a proud dumb shit who's really individualistic dilettante, and I'm proud of that, and I'm proud to be an American, and that's what I celebrate about Americanness. But I am not the sort of person that makes society churn, obviously. And this is not a video about me. It's a video about a man. A man a Filipino man Filipino heritage, second generation American. Both parents immigrants. After Philippines. I wonder how Germans say Philippines. The child of immigrants. I'm the child of an immigrant. Most of us are immigrant adjacent, if not immigrant immediate. That's the reality of being American, y'all. It's a few things. To my mind, you've got all the foundational stuff. Liberty. Liberty is at the top. That's why there's no such thing as dictatorship in the United States of America. That's why it can't go anywhere. Because the genius of the founders, for all of their hypocritical colonialism, the genius of the founders is that they did not shrink back from idealism. And they knew I would defend, if I were a scholar of constitutional history, American history, I would defend the assertion that they knew they were planting kind of thought booby traps. They were quite strong, even though we find, if we follow Judge Luttig and we follow, what's his name, Glenn Kirshner, another law podcast, and then there's Sidney Blumenthal, that's Legal AF, although Legal AF, it's a handful of folks. Liberté, fraternité. I should get the order right because the ordinality of the terms in that triad is important. What is it? Liberté, fraternité, égalité, or liberté, égalité, fraternité, probably the latter. For the United States, it's more like money. No, liberty. I mean, we can tolerate the word liberty. We like the word freedom. But liberty is the classical term. Liberty is the term that is associated with, classical enlightenment, individualism, and so on. The individualism is here to stay, and so is the liberty. So, individual liberty, is it not? Immigrants with individual liberty, work ethic, and so on. Our founders, I proffer for you and assert, dear JSA3, were idealists. And they planted naive, Pollyanna-ish, idealistic seeds in the soil of the U.S. Constitution, which is not a piece of paper, it's a concept. And concepts change. Gilles Deleuze, pardon my French, what is philosophy? It is the creation of concepts. He wrote a book called What is Philosophy? Creation of concepts. Well, I guess my little modification is, I don't care so much about creating the concepts, but I'm interested in tracking the concepts over time. I don't care who gives them to me. I don't care what they are. I'm just interested in what they are and where they go and what their place in the world is. I track concepts. Liberté, individualité. Is that the French word? Individualité. Here's what I like about JSA3. I'm just speaking directly to you now. All I'm going to do when it gets late enough is I'm going to call you and tell you these things anyway. What do I like about you? See, now I'm hesitating because I don't want to give you compliments that are really just compliments that I give myself. How's that for a compliment, dear? I'll try it this way. After several quite extended phone calls, due to life events and the unique and particular timing of the now of March 19th, 2026, aka 1976, Tears and Saints. No, that's Ciaran. You might like that book. You might like that book. Oh, that's a good thing for me to give you. See, that's one of the things this has just been, this has been a kind of a stretch of meditations related to the inner workings of Jose Rizal. I mean, pardon my... In the process of Tears and Saints and paroxysms and just the gosh darn chutzpah of life, I'm trying to euphemize and be extremely discreet, because we're talking about, not only are we talking about discretion, but we're talking about certain, what ordinarily I think passes for, reminds me of the Ted Cruz booger incident. I will illustrate parabolistically and anecdotalistically. I can do this a number of ways. Consider the Tetragrammaton. JSA 3. Now I'm thinking of JSL, that's the Journal of Symbolic Logic. JSA is a dear friend of mine. JSA 3. See, now, and I don't really know where this goes, but it goes to right here. I actually did know. I couldn't have been surprised anyway. There is a word. There is a word, and words become fetishized. We fetishize words. We turn them into cliches, but sometimes a word is the only thing that can mott juice the moment. Mott juice. That's apple juice. Mott apple juice. No! Mott juiced. The right word. Put it this way. I can proudly blurt for all the world, and I can do it fairly, like, I can just barely squeeze it out. I can oratorize, and I can say, my name is Dimitri. I am a philosopher. And, I've been trained to do that, and I've made my peace with the term philosophy. However, one of the things that I do when I philosophize is that I pick apart all the things related to naming oneself. All the categories and identity predicates. So really, when people say, what do you call your music? People say, I prefer not to, well, that's uninteresting. That's a cliche now. There's nothing mystical about that. That wasn't a slip, by the way. The thing is that, look, if you say, I am a philosopher, then it becomes about something else. However, if you say, I prefer not to say what I am, that can be dangerously misleading, because all of the people who fetishize identity really, especially, they get nervous about that sort of thing. Everything's excluded middle. Anyway, look, if everything is excluded middle, how's that different from saying that everything is made of God or everything is made of X? Everything is made of metaphysics. Words are sacred. The word that I call myself is sacred. How can that be? Sometimes there may be a mot juiced. It doesn't mean that it's the best word, but it means that it's the right word for the moment. And regardless of the word, there is a thing. God. People that have talked like this historically, these are the weeds that they get into, because they say things like, well, is it ineffable? And then somebody such as Graham Priest or Jan Cox will come back to you and say, oh yeah, bravo, ineffable. Are you prepared to, F the shit out of that proposition right now? How effed is your ineffing? Is it effed? Is it effable or is it ineffable? The word ineffable is effable, right? The word ineffable already is effable. Is that a problem? No. Well, at first it definitely is. What do I call myself? I am X. I am a dumb shit. Being a dumb shit becomes just as much of a crush. That's a slip. Everything's junior high for me now. Or right now. I am effable. I am ineffable. I am X. It has to hit like a ton of bricks. It has to be perfectly every day. It has to be exactly the way that people know you, and it also has to be something that you have never revealed to anybody. Here's another one I like. I just saw it come across the wire, and then I'll stop here because I think I've made my point. Dear friend, with the number 19 and the other round number that's just a bit too round, ain't it? Who's afraid? Who's afraid of Sally O'Malley? I can punch, I can kick, and stretch. I'm effable. I'm effable. Ineffable. I'm ineffable. So, who was it that said, was it Edward Norton? It was somebody like that. It came across my screen. It said, The solution to break yourself out of, he didn't use the word perseveration, but ruminating anxiety is action. Okay, and then action becomes effable. And then pretty soon, by the end of the interview, by the end of Edward Norton's interview, Jimmy Kimmel or whoever it is got Edward Norton saying, "Damn it, I'm effable. My name is effable. I'm Edward J. Norton III." What? I mean, Ed Norton. Ed Norton and... See, that's the Honeymooners. Ed Norton. I am. See, that's why you get really a glut from Western classical philosophy to Eastern philosophy and quack mystics and all the rest. You get 1,000 permutations of I am. You get I am, period, full stop. You get I am this, I am that. I am here, I am now. Be here now. I am what I am. That's Popeye. I am a such and such. I am an indefinite article. I am the definite article. I am the dipstick. I am a dipstick. Oh. Dear childhood friend of mine, is there not a renaissance? Is there not a renaissance? Consider the adventure of your life, which I'm honored and blessed for. There are no words, because it's a lot of the words. Simón, órale, güey. Órale, güey. La primera, Holmes, always was, always will be.